reality is that we are cleaning up the mess the Conservatives have left us with regard to.
I rise today to report 1 million missing paychecks. That's the number of people who've lost their jobs since February and have not been hired back. We have the highest unemployment of the G7. The US, UK, France, Italy, Japan, Germany, they all had COVID too, but they have lower unemployment than we do. Mr. Speaker, when will this government recognize that their plan to impose austerity on private sector mines and small businesses is not working?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the economic support we have been providing to Canadians during the pandemic has not only prevented a great deal of human misery, it is also driving our economic recovery. And you don't need to take my word for it. I quote, "Federal government income support programs have so far been paramount for averting the delinquency tsunami and protecting the economy." TD economist Ksenia Bushmianova.
Well, member for Carleton.
Oh yes, the bankers are very happy.
Yeah.
They're making all kinds of money these days, Mr. Speaker. But you know who's not happy? The million working class people who no longer have jobs.
Yes.
Who had to come home and sit at the kitchen table with their spouse and say, honey, I no longer have work or a paycheck and I don't know what we're going to do. No government program can replace the mighty force of our 20 million workers, the power of a paycheck. When will this government get out of the way and let our workers get back into jobs?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me remind the member for Carleton and all Canadians what he said on March 8th when asked about what support the government should offer to those very Canadians hurt by the pandemic. I quote, "You may want to address COVID-19 with big, fat government programs. We're Conservatives. We don't believe in that. Our government chose to support Canadians, and we are proud of it. I hate to imagine what the Conservatives would have done had they been elected in 2019.
The member for Carleton.
Well, there you go. They believe that big, fat government programs can replace the dignity and productivity of a job. Everyday Canadians actually want the opportunity to work. That is the only thing that will permanently put food on the table and provide the wealth necessary to fund our cherished social safety net. This government has the worst jobs record in the G7, 1/3 higher unemployment than across the OECD. Wow. When will they acknowledge that their plan is just not working?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the honourable member seems to maybe just not understand is that in fighting this pandemic, we have asked Canadians to make a really big sacrifice. We have asked Canadians to stay home. And you know what? We are still asking Canadians to practice social distancing because the best economic policy is to crush coronavirus. And to make it possible for Canadians to do that, our government is there for them, and we will be.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, here's a good one from this morning. The Prime Minister signed an agreement to find a vaccine with Canada for the CNRC and CanSec Bio, but the Chinese government simply cancelled the contract. We know that the Prime Minister really likes the Chinese communist regime, but Canadians want to know how many millions of dollars were lost to the Chinese. The Honourable Minister.
Our government has been working closely with experts and industry partners throughout this pandemic, which has allowed us to make an evidence-based approach to vaccine research and development. In the context of our continued research and evolving evidence, the National Research Council chose to implement the revised expert advice of the Vaccine Task Force and pursue other vaccine candidates. We will continue to actively pursue every promising option for a COVID-19 vaccine. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. That answer is not satisfactory. Canada signed an agreement with the Chinese state organization CanSino Bio. The Chinese canceled the deal. It cost us money. But worse than that, the Canadian patents were transferred to China, and we still don't understand. And it seems that the government has forgotten that our two Michaels are still prisoners there, and that Chinese really doesn't care about Canadian interests. So what does the Prime Minister think about this whole situation? And how can Canada's intellectual property, how could that end up in Chinese hands when they don't respect us?
Speaker, and I welcome that question because, as everyone in this House knows, Canada has a complex and multidimensional relationship with China. Canada engages with China with our eyes wide open. Many of our international partners are facing similar challenges. We actively engage with them constantly to ensure that Canadian interests are upheld, human rights are spoken about, intellectual property is protected. Our government has been clear about our principles, our commitment to the rule of law, our deep concern for our citizens, including Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, arbitrarily detained, and our farmers and producers in Canada who seek markets. Canada will remain firm and resolute.